My whole life is my work, and my work is my life. And as long as I live, I shall continue to try to awaken my fellow man to the glory of knowing himself.
The great philosopher Kant said that human reason can never fathom the depths of the invisible realm of heaven, within which a presumable God is supposed to exist. That is true, but human reason is limited to man's senses, however. Man's mind can know what man's sensed reasoning cannot know, for man's mind and soul are heaven. The kingdom of heaven is within man. Therefore, man can know all things in the measure of the awakening of his own divinity, his own immortality, and his own oneness with God. The outer mortal self, or body of man, exists only to the senses of man. The inner, immortal, soul self of man cannot be seen, but it can be known. We cannot see knowledge, love, or imagination, but they are there nevertheless. We cannot see energy, which makes it possible to walk, talk, run, swim, work, and play. These things we cannot see are as much a part of a person as their arms and legs. So which then is real? The outer visible man who can die, or the inner invisible man within the visible man who cannot die? It is strange that man knows so much about everything, but so little about man. The intelligentsia of the world, its doctors, surgeons, biologists, anthropologists, and anatomists have written volumes about the man who can die, but they are strangely silent about the man who cannot die. Great universities have been founded to educate man about man whom man can see, but their curricula is strangely silent about such existent things as the mind and soul of man.
Make that happen. Therefore, let's throw out all of the laws of physics. And I think that is not nearly enough.
Stop right there. Stop right there. Evan, is that true?
No, that's not at all true. In fact, they still teach quantum mechanics, right?
Socrates tried to reason the soul into an admitted existence, but the invisible cannot be reasoned into being by the sensed brain. It must be known by the mind. All creating things begin in the thinking mind of God and extend from the light of God as transient light recordings of thought-imaged forms which man calls bodies of matter. Growth is the result of thought waves of light. Thought waves pulse. Living bodies breathe and pulse. They constitute the heartbeat of the living universe. They are mind-centered, whether they be the body of man, bird, insect, tree, or apple on the tree. All repetitive continuities are wave vibrations. The entire universal body is a vibrating one, but wave vibrations are deceptive. Humans fail to recognize the continuity of 1,000 life cycles as being continuous repetitions of each other simply because of the long time interval between each repetition. When human consciousness develops the ability to comprehend that rest periods between actions are not death, then death will have been conquered by knowledge, and those who thus comprehend will know that there is no death.
The time has come when human intelligence should realize that repetition and reincarnation are two words with but one meaning. Idea is eternal, but the unfolding of idea by thinking mind is eternally repetitive. Man is idea. Idea cannot die. Man's body manifests idea by eternally changing and eternally repeating. Bodies, therefore, cannot die, for eternal change, eternally repeated, is an ageless continuity which, like the mind of God itself, never began and can never end. This is what is meant by telling you that man is immortal both as to his mind, which is one with God, and as to his body, which is an eternal record of his eternal thinking. People seldom realize that every time one completely severs his sensed body from his consciousness in sleep or death, or partially severs it in meditation, he withdraws into his immortal self, which centers every cell of his body as well as his mind self. The entire effort of the long journey from body sensation to mind consciousness, which means God consciousness, is a continuous effort to recollect one's divine origin in order that one may manifest it. God is the silent voice which man hears within him strongly in times of deep inspiration or in times of grave danger. This is as true of the criminal as of the saint. They vary only in the measure of their ability to recollect their divine source. Life is eternal in mind, and therefore never begins or ends. Life in bodies begins in thought and ends in thought. Thoughts are wave cycles. Life in bodies, therefore, begins and ends in thought wave cycles. Life in bodies merely simulates eternal life in mind. Every created body is thought into existence. Bodies are, therefore, merely thought recordings, and that is as true of the whole universe of bodies as it is of one body. Your own body is the record of your thinking. You pulse it into being by the thought waves which spring from the fulcrum of your desire to manifest yourself. Whatever you think, that you become. Your thinking can build a glorious body and lead you to a high pinnacle, or it can drop you into a deep pit. God's eternally living universe of light is founded upon love. It is imperative that you realize this fact, for the inner light of your very being is love, and your very body is founded upon the light of love. The light of love is the only force in all this universe. It is impossible for bodies to live in the dark, and impossible for them to unfold without love. That which mind knows cannot be sensed. That which the body senses cannot be known. The mind can be conscious that it knows, but the body is limited to a vibratory awareness that it has sensation. Knowledge is solely an attribute of the mind. Sensation is solely an attribute of the body. Mind is static light, the one and only power source of this universe. Thus thinking, you see what man calls life in a new light. You see it as the manner in which God manifests the idea of light and eternal life by dividing his one idea into countless pairs of many seemingly separate ideas, for that is what vibrating light waves are. These waves of light emerge from their fulcrum zeros and disappear into them in endless repetitions forever and ever. The wave is an extension of heaven to earth and back again. The wave is a projection from the spiritual universe of rest to a resting point in the physical universe, and back again to the spiritual universe for renewal of power to repeat the journey. Another way of saying it is that the wave is an emergence from the static condition of rest through the dynamic condition of motion to the static condition and back again, or that it is an extension of cause through effect and back again through effect to cause. Between every pulsation of movement, there is a period of stillness, which divides every compression-expansion sequence. You can knowingly say that the power expressed in motion is not really in the motion, but is in the stillness which divides motion. If that is true, life itself, which is presumed to be motion, must have its source in eternal rest. If death is presumed to be non-motion, and life is dependent upon it to express life, the only possible conclusion is that life is two ways, both of which have their source in rest.
The time will come in the unfoldment of man when his inner sensory perception will equal his outer sensory perception. When that time comes, he will know that motion only seems but has no existence. Present-day man senses do not permit him to perceive the simultaneously voiding motion which cancels out the one they do see. In our New Science of Tomorrow teachings are these words for a new law for tomorrow, which read, "Every action-reaction in nature is voided as it occurs, is recorded as it's voided, and is repeated as it is recorded." The time has come when unfolding man should recognize this fact and place knowledge and power in the Creator of universal bodies and not in the bodies.
Be still and know.
The hardest lesson that man must learn is that whatever he does to others, he is doing to himself. Natural law is inexorable. No man or nation can escape it.
People become what they think, and it is in the nature of pupils to think what they are taught, and that which they think, they become. Who among the greatest of the world's university-trained scientific scholars can tell how the dynamic universe of motion emerges from the static condition of rest, or how God constructs matter? Those secrets lie behind the curtain of invisibility, which the materially minded, sense-limited intellectuals cannot penetrate. No such curtain exists for the cosmic-minded illuminate. When you begin to think cosmically, you will advance rapidly if your desire is keen, but from the very day you begin, you will note increasingly greater power in your work and still a greater transformation of your personality.
Your capacity for joy and happiness may be measured by your capacity for grief and suffering. All of the knowledge in the world should not dehumanize you. Your knowledge will, however, balance all opposite emotions and thus enrich you for having experienced them, while ignorance will breed fears, worries, superstitions, and other unnatural emotions, which act as a terrible burden to your progress. Knowledge of universal law will give you courage to transform the greatest defeat which ever threatened you into your greatest achievement.
Sunshine in nature would be a calamity without shadow. Grief, suffering, loneliness, and kindred emotions are as purposeful in the divine drama of life as joyfulness, happiness, and like emotions are purposeful. And being purposeful, they are good. When any of our loved ones die, we rightly feel a great sense of grief and loneliness. All the knowledge in the world will not assuage that expression of emotion. This is as it should be.
No matter how great your knowledge of the unreality of death may be, no matter how strongly you may live in the spiritual world, you must not forget that you have a physical body, which manifests spiritual idea, and that you live in both the divided and undivided universe of cause and effect. To have so much knowledge of the undivided universe that it leaves you cold to the emotions of the divided universe is to hold yourself aloof from the play and renders you purposeless.
To live life, one needs to be strong in knowledge rather than in body. Strength of body is like to having a fine tool to do better work with, but no tool can produce work by itself, and a weak mind cannot order a tool to do masterly work. The most important contributions to the power and happiness in the world of man are knowledge and strength of character. Give of yourself, and you will discover all the power in all the universe is yours to give. Life is an eons-long journey to search for happiness. Happiness in man is an emotion that springs from love. To find happiness, man must find love. The journey of life is for the finding of love.
God is love. When you find God, you find love. When you find God, you find the kingdom of heaven within yourself, and all things else are added unto you.
Therefore, go forward with courage, knowing that in all the world there is only one, the universal one. Light of your very being is love, and your very body is founded upon the light of love. The light of love is the only force in all this universe.
We're upsetting the whole of the organic structure of the decaying mile or two of the earth, which gives us our life. In your periodic chart, carbon appears 3.5 octaves from Alpha Non and 5.5 octaves from Omega Non. Why not 4.5 octaves from Alpha Non, as would be midway or in the center? You counted by the gases, the inert gases, rather than by the element itself. The 9 octaves appear from one to the other, and the beginning is the end. And if you count them by the inert gases, you'll find that neon is the central one, and therefore on either side. Carbon is on one side of that, and silicon on the other. Is artesian water the same as unbound water? No. Artesian water is water that fills the galleries and caves and crevices in the rock everywhere from rainwater. That is water that's evaporated from the ocean or from the earth, goes into the heavens and comes back again and seeps through the underground rivers. Great underground rivers, just as there are great overground rivers, and that is the water that we call the rain cycle, the rainwater cycle. It rises and falls and seeps through and comes out again. That rainwater cycle of either artesian or other wells that are nearer the surface is the water that is lessening because of the taking of the tree growth down and of the destruction of the oxygen in the atmosphere that makes it necessary to pull more and more and more oxygen from the earth for its necessity, and not succeeded in doing, raises the temperature of the earth. The unbound water is water that is being released from the crystal structures, like the granite and the silicon. The artesian water is that which has already come out and circulating in the atmosphere to the clouds and back again. Please explain briefly what you mean by the term extending the fulcrum. In my understanding, the fulcrum is the stand that supports the seesaw. Do you mean by extension to make it higher, or do you mean to make the seesaw longer? I mean to make the extension, the fulcrum of the seesaw. The fulcrum is there in nature always. The moment you express a desire to do something, to make an action, then you extend from the fulcrum both ways. You make the seesaw. That's what it is to extend it, the amount of energy that you have. If you do not extend the fulcrum, you seemingly extend it. You seemingly divide its power. Because children on either end of the seesaw can express the power of motion. But that is all they do, express the power of motion. And that power of motion they express is the power borrowed from the stillness of the fulcrum at the center. I do not always have to like to say it's a seeming extension, because the universe is only seeming. Perhaps if I use the word, it's a thought extension. And it is. It's an imagined extension. In your thinking, you imagine. And you cannot imagine objectively without creating emotion objectively in your imagining. And so it is in the thinking process of nature there seems to be an extension or division which takes power or borrows seeming power without borrowing it but seeming to. Before I say it, the extension of power is like a person pulling away from the fulcrum with an elastic band that stretches and strains and makes it harder and harder and harder to pull away from it. But on the opposite side, there's equal pulling away to balance that pulling. But the power is in the fulcrum, not in the... For instance, if you stood out on the prairie and pulled at a rope, you have no difficulty pulling at that rope. It does not pull you back. But you hit the post there, and the post does not move. And you take an elastic band and you hitch it to it, and you stretch away from it. You find it pulling back. Therefore, you've created two conditions at the same time. You can bring condition of extension and condition of expansion, and of reflection. That's the action and reaction nature. From the zero you have extended in every direction, because you cannot extend this direction from the fulcrum without extending in the opposite direction to balance it. The two conditions of decentration and concentration of mental thinking have been established in what we call an electric current. If you let that elastic go, it will go back to where it started from and disappear in the fulcrum. That fulcrum is the zero. That which we borrowed from the fulcrum is a multiplication of that zero plus and minus. One balancing the other, one offsetting the other. You borrowed 50 from there by your pulling, 50 plus. On the opposite side of that is a 50 minus. 50 minus and 50 plus total together a zero. Nothing in nature ever exceeds zero. It seems to. And so we have multiplying and divided universe into pairs of opposite conditions of compression and expansion, two opposite pressures which make it possible to run our engines and do all the things we have and run the engine of our heartbeat and so forth. But the fulcrum of every lever extension, every seesaw motion, the fulcrum never moves. That is its zero, and the elastic bands will pull together and disappear into the light from which it came, into the zero light from which it came, to divide itself into two lights that will illumine the bodies that have extended from it. Those lights illumine and warm and heat and cool the bodies that are extended from it to make a universe like that. To make a universe that fits the imaginings of your mind. When it retracts back to that, there's no more warmth to warm the bodies, no more light to light the bodies. The imagined universe disappears insofar as that one desire is concerned. Life has appeared and disappeared in death, and it will again reappear. The extension of the fulcrum and its multiplication to a point of equal potential to that which is borrowed from the fulcrum is right, with all of the effects that is created by so doing, the effects of warmth and heat and cool and growth and decay and moisture that make up this universe. And when that elastic band pulls that back into the fulcrum, there's an absolute disappearance of all of it. The whole universe can't disappear at once because it isn't created that way. But that one pulsation will disappear. And the pulsations which appear by extending a fulcrum and retracting, those pulsations begin with an incredible speed, with an incredibly small duration. Frequencies of millions and millions of extensions and retractions. The seesaw extending and retracting so that its frequency is 186,000 miles a second. The frequency is growing larger, duration, accumulating time until the frequencies are so slow they'll give you 1 in 50 years of a tree, perhaps. The ant, the elephant, the sun, the solar system. Multiplied time, multiplied frequencies, multiplied abilities to accumulate these frequencies and wind them up to retard time for the sake of multiplying power. That's the lever principle. That's the fulcrum and lever principle. Shorten the lever, you lose time, you gain power. A man, by shortening the lever sufficiently and getting on the long end of it, can lift tons. Well, without that lever, he could only lift 150 pounds with the lever and fulcrum of his own body. He's limited to that, but with the, as Archimedes said, give me a fulcrum and a lever long enough and I could move the universe. It's true. Does life spring spontaneously from nature? A college professor said it did not. There is nothing spontaneous in nature, in the sense that it is used. Everything in nature is planned. Everything in nature is the result of a desire to become, a desire to express in motion the idea of mind. Nothing spontaneous happens in your kitchen. In motion, the idea of mind. Nothing spontaneous happens in your kitchen after the dinner dishes have gone there. A desire to reassort them is followed by action. And the fulfillment of your desire takes place by action. A word spontaneous is used often in the relation of combustion, spontaneous combustion. If you leave a pile of refuse out somewhere and some kindlings in it, or even some decaying vegetation and earth that will burst into flame. That's not spontaneous combustion. That's the result of accumulated power, accumulated power of decay.
Wave universe, 9 octaves. Gases begin the first octave, very dense metals, and the 9th octave, like the plutonium, being the last of the natural octave, or last of the natural elements. So you have very few rings with gases. You start at hydrogen, 1 electron, or whatever they call it, an electron. There's no such thing, but it's more of a ring. And that ring I kind of like to use these words. There's a protonic force of inward motion or compression, a neutronic force, which is a point of reversal, and then an electronic force, which is the point of expansion back to stillness. So stillness compresses to a point and then expands in a reversal of direction back out to stillness. There's a protonic force of inward motion or compression, a neutronic force, which is a point of reversal, and then an electronic force, which is the point of expansion back to stillness. So stillness compresses to a point and then expands in a reversal of direction back out to stillness. And the way you can look at that too in nature is the breath. You breathe in, you start at 0, you breathe in, you stop at 0. Reverse direction and exhale out to do it again. So Walter's primary law is balance. If you need 2 words, rhythmic balance. If you need 3 words, rhythmic balanced interchange. And basically what that is a series of repetitions that repeats eternally. So you have removed the need for the Big Bang. And this is basically a mind wave universe that rotates on the still white magnetic light. Anywhere you look, the center of any object is a point of gravity. Gravity is not an inward pulling force. In Russell science, it is stillness, which divides into a north and south shaft upon which motion then rotates. So wherever there is a center of gravity, there's motion surrounding it, and that center of gravity can be likened to God. It means the same thing pretty much. Gravity and God are one in that sense.
There's nothing in the nature but waves of motion. Waves multiply in the direction of their amplitude, and they divide on the way down. Back to silence of the zero from which it came. That's life and death.
All you have to do is look up into the heavens and look at a spiral galaxy, and you'll see the exact same formation. In fact, every nucleal center is not exactly a solid mass. There's only one instance in the wave in which that's actually true, and that's at carbon, or what we call the wave amplitude. It's where if you imagine a sinusoid, it's where the crest and the trough is located. At that position, you've accumulated maximum potential by compression from the outside to the inside. And so it isn't a nuclear mass in the way that they teach it, where all elements have a nuclear mass full of protons and neutrons of a certain weight with orbital electrons around it. What Russell is really endeavoring to teach us is that there's a wave structure behind all so-called particles or particulate. A particle mass is really only an accumulation of waves in a smaller volume or smaller region of space, and so it based on all of our test equipment and what we have available to us to our limited senses, it appears to be a particle mass. And that's what led to this whole explosion of trying to describe everything using particles. But in reality, it's the underlying mechanics behind everything is waves. Everything has a wave structure because everything is created and it lives. It has a life and death cycle. And that is fundamentally based upon the structure of the wave.
Yeah.
The word magnetism connotes a physical attribute. A proper way to connect it to the electric universe of motion would be to term it the magnetic electric universe, meaning the spiritual physical universe, or the mind thinking universe, in the sense that the zero magnetic universe is the creator, and the motion universe is creation.
When man is fully aware of the fact that he eternally lives in the Creator's invisible magnetic light as one with it, and merely manifests life by action in the electric universe, he will then know that when action ceases, it merely ceases without affecting him, even as sound ceases without affecting him who made the sound.
This is the construct.
The Creator is the invisible, motionless, sexless, undivided, and unconditioned white magnetic light of omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent mind.
The word magnetism connotes a physical attribute. A proper way to connect it to the electric universe of motion would be to term it the magnetic electric universe, meaning the spiritual physical universe, or the mind thinking universe, in the sense that the zero magnetic universe is the creator, and the motion universe is creation.
When man is fully aware of the fact that he eternally lives in the Creator's invisible magnetic light as one with it, and merely manifests life by action in the electric universe, he will then know that when action ceases, it merely ceases without affecting him, even as sound ceases without affecting him who made the sound.
This is the omniscient universe of eternal mind qualities, from which transient electric qualities emerge to simulate the qualities of the Creator's magnetic light of mind, which are knowledge, idea, energy, life, soul, love, truth, beauty, rhythm, balance, law, silence, rest, and stillness.
The magnetic light is sexless, for it is in equilibrium. Its electric division into pairs creates the dual sex condition, which we know as male and female.
The Creator gives of itself to all the universe in an eternity of endless re-giving. The Creator's universe re-gives of itself to the Creator in an eternity of endless giving. That which the Creator gives is love. That which is regiven is love. That is the divine story of creation. It is a story of cause and effect in the giving and regiving of love. It is the one story of the Creator's knowing, expressed by thinking, illumined by the light of imagining.
The time has come when unfolding intelligence in man should tell him that the divine spark of inspiration and the silent voice which speaks to him from within is the magnetic light of mind and the source of his energy.
The Creator, who is the knower, is non-dimensional. The Creator's thinking is two-dimensional. The Creator's imaginings are three-dimensional.
Creation consists of the invisible magnetic universe of mind, which man calls space, and the visible universe of motion, which man calls matter and substance.
The Creator's still magnetic light is omnipresent and omnipotent. It is in and through everything throughout eternity. The Creator's magnetic omniscience is expressed in the perfection of its electric creation.
While it is true that you and I and all of the other atoms in the universe are mostly empty space, it is also true that empty space isn't truly empty. And in fact, it is these vacuum fluctuations which are essential for our existence.